I should probably be watching other things, but I really wanted to watch Chihayafuru tonight. Hey, it's Romania Black. I'm getting back to business. And yeah, I was able to check the comments for episodes 3 and 4 yesterday thanks to the mods, and I was like, I really want to watch episode 6. Episode 5 was so good. And also, I've learned some things about the voice actors that I want to talk to y'all about, and how y'all haven't told me about this until now. Y'all deserve medals, but we're going to get into it. So let's get into that, shall we? So anyway, I'm just going to start right off the bat and talk about the comments for episodes 3 and episodes 4. I really loved episode 5. Episode 5, where we got to get things resolved kind of with Arata. At least Arata coming full circle in that episode to being like, okay, I do miss you guys. I might want to get back into Karuta. We'll see where that goes. And then Taichi and Chihaya being like, nope, we're going to start a club. We're going to play with the cards. I'm like, oh, it was so satisfying. But we have a comment from Fornoda for episode 3, backtrack a few weeks, where they are talking about the card meaning in episode 3. So it says, I feel like the flashbacks being done in more or less 3 episodes kind of mimics how quickly the friendship and passion between these 3 goofballs blossomed and wilted for them as well. I really like that for Noda. I like that description of it blooms very quickly and then it quickly wilted and went away, which is so sad and makes me just want to like root for them to get back together in high school, but we can't have nice things, so we have to make it difficult. I have a tiger lily that's outside of my home, and I love it because every year this tiger lily, I've had it for 5 years, it blooms into this beautiful orange tiger lily right around the end of May, and for about a week it's the most beautiful flower ever. And then after that week, it's like, and you're like, no, but it just makes me love it and savor it all that much more, right? So I kind of get that impression from those first couple of episodes that are like the flashbacks. So the poem of episode 3 is Snowfall, as interpreted by Mostow. So that I thought it, the light of the lingering moon at dawn, the white snow that has fallen on the village of Yoshino. The poem was written by Sakanoe no Koronori, one of the 36 immortals of poetry. Little is recorded of his history beyond his work as a poet. The poem depicts a beautiful winter landscape. Rather than comparing the snow to the moon, as would be more common, snow is instead described to be illuminating a dawn sky, just like the light of a lingering moon. Yoshino was a mountainous district in Yamato, or present-day Nara Prefecture, famous for its cherry blossoms in the spring and snow in the winter. So before we go any further, I just want to make comments that tie to episode 5, because it was called like the midnight moon, and I interpret Arata as the moon. Arata is the midnight moon, but I interpret from this poem the dawn sky, dawn being Chihaya, where it's like the dawn of a new day, the dawn of a new time, the dawn of a new friendship, the dawn of a new relationship, mending things, repairing things, rebirthing things, reconstructing them. Chihaya represents that kind of constant evolution, deconstruction, and recreation over and over again. And Arata is the moon, who is this constant presence in Chihaya's life. So what would that make Taichi? Well, the obvious thing would be the sun. So we'll see how that goes between them. But anyway. So Mostow remarks, and also we had a bunch of cherry blossoms in episode 5, so it all seems to kind of tie together. But anyway, Mostow remarks, this poem uses the term asabarake, which means a dawn in either winter or autumn. It's a kind of slow, late dawn that you only find in that time of year. And again, we have autumn being connected to Chihaya. So compare with Akatsuki, which Professor Mostow explains can be dawn at any time of the year. Moreover, the ending of the poem with Yoshino no Sato ni Fureru Shirayuki is a technique called Taigendome, which brings attention to the word Shirayuki, or white and snowfall. This is because the Japanese is a subject-object-verb language. Cheers, East Asia. So grammatical sentences usually end with a verb. However, in classic Japanese poetry or waka, this is not always the case, as is here, and the ending with a noun brings flair to the poet's diction and structure. It's so crazy how language works, because I know there are 3, we were always taught there are 3, there's many grammar trees, but there are three essential kind of roots of grammar. And you have your European, your English, your Spanish, your French, your more Germanic languages over here that have a similar root, and they all branch out into different trees. Then you have like your languages like Arabic and Sanskrit that are a totally different form or root that branch out into different language trees. And then you have your Asian languages, like your East Asia, things like that, that are all a different tree as well. And my mind is so rooted in the English form of subject verb agreement and structure that whenever I see languages start out with a verb or start out with a predicate, I'm like, it just feels like it's like my brain has been so hardwired to English grammar. It's like, what are you doing? And it just doesn't know how to cope. So I just reading that, I was like, yep, I know what that means. Of course, this is the card that Taichi picks up during the team game, while the winter has replaced the autumn as a season has passed. That said, the reference to the winter is definitely a callback to our poem from episode 1 and indicates the end of their childhood and separation of their friendship. While, like the lingering moon, it is fleeting, a beautiful sight, the reality is much more colder and melancholic than that. In Nanawa Bay, now the flowers are blossoming. After lying dormant all winter, now the spring has come and the flowers are blossoming. I feel like episode 5 kind of went through a journey of being melancholy for a time, but then by the end of it, it almost felt like spring had sprung, where you saw Arata trying to reconnect with Taichi and Chihaya at the very end, signaling that it's not going to be totally sad. There's light at the end of the tunnel. There's a little hope there. Just you wait. So I really liked that. So thank you for Anoda for including the episode 3 poem. I really appreciate it. I know I'm a couple episodes behind on the poems, but it's okay. It'll be all right. So anyway, then H Banana 7 for episode 4 said, I think the binoculars that Harada Sensei were using were to see the letters on the cards. And I was like, oh, well, that would make sense of why you'd have a pair of binoculars there. That would make a lot of sense, actually. But here's the thing. So Alexander Q or somebody, I can't remember exactly if it was Alexander Q in the comments, they were like, hey, did you see who the main voice actors were? Do you know that? And at the time, as I'm recording episode 6, I did not look at the voice actors because their voices did not stand out immediately to me. And plus, I looked up the voice actors for young Taichi and young Arata, and they are two voice actresses that have been in a lot of anime, but they weren't anime that I was familiar with. So they were all in series that I had not seen yet. So I was like, oh, okay. Now, the voice actress for Chihaya, both young and current, is Asami Seto. And I was like, oh, her voice I have heard before. She has been the main female character in Death Parade, whose name I can't give away because it's a spoiler. But she's been her. She's also played Higuchi in Bungo Stray Dogs, which I was like, oh, okay. But she's been in a lot of anime, some of which that I really want to see in the future. So I think that's pretty cool. But yeah, she's been in Chihaya, obviously. She's also plays Nobara in Jujutsu Kaisen. And I was like, oh, she's Nobara. Okay. So then I was like, crazy talk. So she's been in a lot of things. And she's been in the new Bleach adaptation. She's in the Kaijo 8 series that I eventually want to see. Like, she's been in a lot of things. So I was like, okay, nice. All right, so she's a pretty well-known voice actress that's done a lot of work. I think because this was originally recorded in 2011 and it's 14 years old, season 1 is almost 15 years old, I didn't recognize these two voice actors that play Taichi and Arata. But now that I know who they are, I'm going to be obsessed. And I feel like it's important we know, because last week was the first episode we really had them by themselves voicing as characters. I'm going to blame this on the fact that it was his voice, but he was also in Death Note around the same time, so you would think I would know. Miyano freaking Mamoru is Taichi? Excuse me? I was shocked. I was legitimately shocked because usually Miyano Mamoru's voice I recognize, but Taichi is not, as of this moment in the show, a very diva character. Miyano Mamoru plays divas. He has played like Yagami. He has played Atsumomiya. He has played Tamaki in Ouran High School Host Club. He has been in so many things. He's Dazai in Bungo Stray Dogs. I was like, what? So he's been in so much. Actually, all three of these main voice actors are main characters in Bungo Stray Dogs, which is wild to me. But yeah, so Miyano Mamoru is playing Taichi. And I think the reason I didn't recognize his voice is because he's very subdued right now. And he's very just like, oh, okay, Chihaya, I'll help you get this thing. He's not showing off his goofy side or diva side to the fullest. So Miyano Mamoru is not being utilized to his fullest yet. But I love Miyano Mamoru. And I'm like, knowing that he is the voice of Taichi, you just got me even deeper into the Taichi fan club. You've unlocked a new level, and I'm here for it. So let's freaking go. All right. That being said, then I was like, well, who's voicing Arata? Oh, I don't know. Just Reiner's voice actor. My voice is gone. Like, my mind is completely gone. I was thinking of Free. And I'm thinking of, it's not Sasuke in Free. I was like, Splash Free. Oh my God. He plays Asahi in Haikyuu. Also, he plays Kunikita in Bungo Stray Dogs. It's freaking Hosoya. How? I was absolutely floored. And I think because last week, of course, Hosoya playing Arata, a broody character, typecast much, I should not be surprised. But I was just absolutely gobsmacked because I was not expecting it. And I was like, oh, okay. Oh, yes. Oh my God. Sosuke. My God. I need to go back and rewatch Free, obviously. But yes, Sosuke. So I was just floored that Arata is played by Hosoya, which we didn't hear him talk a lot last episode, but I'm all in. You got me. Hosoya and Mamoru and Seto as our main trio. You have me. You had me, and now you have me even more. So yeah, I'm glad y'all didn't spoil that because that just made my day. I was like, oh, and now I know. I'm sure people will comment by now who the three mains are, but that's really exciting. So yes, huzzah. But anyway, I'm super excited. I thank you all so much for the comments. My voice is starting to come back. It's still a little bit scratchy, so I can't get too high-pitched. But I feel this week I have felt more myself than I have all of last week, so that is a good thing. So good deal. But yeah, so I'm so excited, y'all. Anyway, I am hydrated, and I'm super excited to see episode 6 with y'all, so we're not gonna waste any more time. We're gonna dive right into episode 6 of Chihayafuru and see what we get, and I'm so excited, and we're gonna do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. So this was a lot of fun, and I already like Kana so much. So, okay. All right. Well, we got to start somewhere. And Kana is a very good foundational member of our crew. I like her a lot already. I like what she brings to the table. I love that Chihaya is basically a sponge, soaking it all in, and Taichi is just a negative Nancy that needs to be put in its place by the power of friendship, and I feel like that's going to happen in this series. So we have a lot to break down with this episode, so we might as well start with this, but them bringing the mats that they got off the very nice gentleman that gave them the mats. I feel like Chihaya does not realize the full power of her potential, right? Because they keep talking about how Chihaya and Taichi are like beauty and vain. They're like, oh, you guys are both models. You're beautiful. You look like a model. You look like Linda Evangelista. You know, I feel like they do not realize what all they could do with their looks if they really want to be manipulative, which is something that's good about Chihaya. She's not manipulative because, I mean, I feel like her sister is a model. Her sister knows she's pretty. Her sister knows that she could, you know, get away with stuff because of how she looks, because society typically tends to reward people that have a certain aesthetic, unfortunately. And Chihaya is a precious lamb that doesn't realize that. But there is a part of me that wondered, like, because you're very cute and sunny dispositioned and kind, is that combination the reason why the guy just gave you the mats? Could have been. But maybe he was just being nice. Maybe he was just being a good Samaritan and just doing his due diligence and getting her the mats anyway. We will never know. But I at least think, he could have helped him get him back to the building, because they had to carry him like all the way up a hill. But I kind of hate that the students at the school are so, I hate that they're so vain in a sense, because they make fun of Taichi and Chihaya because they are like, nerdy. I'm like, dude, like, the vanity of high school. I forget about it sometimes. And then I think, oh yeah, people were really vain in high school and cared only about surface level appearances. Seems legit. And there's kind of a lesson to be told about that within the episode itself, because Taichi kind of views the game of Karuta in a sense as kind of surface level, where as long as you get the patterns memorized and as long as you find your niche, that it's just treating the sport like that. And I guess I didn't bring Whiteboard Kun out for this episode. I probably could have, but I feel like for Taichi, that kind of goes back to the way that he's been trained from childhood, that his parents are like, well, just do well and do your best and win, and don't care about how you get to that point or what the means were, as long as the results are that you win. Because of that mentality, Taichi kind of overlooks one of the big fundamentals about the game itself, and that's the poems and their meanings and the rich history behind the entire sport as a whole. He's just like, oh, if you memorize this pattern and you're fast and you find your niche and you can exploit it, you can win the game. But he's forgetting, it's kind of like, you're missing the forest for the trees. You're not getting like the total richness of the experience. And for Chihaya, she kind of like goes all in on it. I do like in the animation, we'll talk more about it here in a second, but I do like in the animation this guy that's leaning back against the bench, and he's just like, as they're carrying it all up there. So the students make note that Taichi's one of the smartest, book smartest in the class, and Chihaya is one of the prettiest in the class. But they could, use their powers of their good looks in vain for evil. But instead of using it for the forces of evil, they're using it for the forces of Karuta. And the school just doesn't get it. It was, this entire episode with Chihaya was giving. It's so funny because Beauty and the Beast is one of my favorite. It's my favorite Disney movie. I grew up with Beauty and the Beast. I love it so much. It's one of my favorite stories in Disney. But Chihaya gives such Belle vibes, where the high school is like, look, there she goes. That girl is strange but special. Like, they're just going to sing Belle. I'm sure somebody's edited it at some point, but they're just singing that around her, because she's like just the nerdy kid that happens to be beautiful. And then honestly, Arata gives me Beast vibes, which, do with that what you will. Taichi gives me Gaston vibes. But like, if Gaston was redeemable. Taichi gives me, if Gaston was redeemable, that's Taichi. That's what it's giving me. And I'm fine with that. I think that Taichi is a redeemable character. I think he's already put in a lot of good strides, and I think he has a long way to go. But so does Arata, so that's going to be their journey. I feel like, Chihaya has steps to grow as well, but she's such an open person that Chihaya is so open to learn and so open to grow and just soak it all in, that I feel like her character growth is going to be just what she learns along the way. It's the friends we made along the way in this Karuta journey. Whereas for Taichi and Arata, I genuinely feel like they have some serious character growth to do and will do over the course of this series. So we meet Kana, and Kana the crew talks about skipping practice with Tsurune. If you've not watched the series Tsurune, it is such a beautiful sports anime. The studio KyoAni does it. It's gorgeous. It's so serene. It just has like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like if Natsume's Book of Friends and Haikyuu had a baby, kind of, but it's not. It's just so serene and just a beautiful show, and I love Tsurune so much. So the last thing I was expecting coming into this series was to get like little crossover vibes with Tsurune and Karuta, but I can kind of see it. I can see the same like chill atmosphere hiding a passionate, intense sport underneath. And so then we get Kana, who knows all about the poetry. She's been studying it a woman that's ahead of her time, and she really just wanted to join Sarune for the sake of the outfits. Girl priorities work. I do also love that anytime we get like a new character vibe, like we saw it with Arata last episode when we saw him post time skip, like there are flowers framing them as soon as we get a new character. It just feels so grand. And as Kana says, Karuta is supposed to feel grand. So now we know why Chihaya's wearing the Yakuta or the Yukata in the OP, because Kana's like, if you're going to play it properly, you got to play it properly. It's about the dress. And I will be honest with you all, there is something to that. Mm-hmm. I know that there's been lots of people that have done the psychology of clothing and what we wear. When I took rhetoric classes, we talked about like the colors you wear and the colors and what they dictate and your mood and things like that. But we do this when we do competitive public speaking. There's not really a dress code necessarily. You're supposed to wear suits or something synonymous with that. But anymore, like when I was competing, it was very strict. You were supposed to look presidential. You were supposed to look like you're running for Congress and be in a suit. Now it can kind of veer into business casual, but suits are still preferred. But we tell the students on my team all the time, it's like you dress for confidence. So you dress to portray power. Because if you look put together, if you look confident, that will sell that confidence all the more. And it could be an intimidation factor. So I would imagine that it's kind of like in shogi, it's kind of like that with March Comes In Like a Lion. If Chihaya came down and sat down in a full yukata ready to go, that would kind of be more intimidating than her in a bear shirt and sweatpants. It just is. There's a confidence and a power that clothing can elicit. And I think it's such a cool thing that Kana's like, by wearing the yukata and traditional robes when you compete, it's like you're upholding the history, the tradition, you respect it. It's like a symbol of honored respect, and I'm all for it. I kind of just absolutely love it. So anyway, they managed to get the episode's called Now Bloom Inside the Ninefold Palace, which adds that idea of the imperial court that Karuta is about. You know, we're not peasants. Kana's like, we're not peasants dabbling in poetry. We are doing a sport that was done amongst the most imperial of courts and the most imperial of nobility. So I like that they get this little building out to the side to practice in, that they carry the mats to. It's secluded out in the middle of nowhere, which was giving me absolutely Bloom Into You vibes. And with Kana and Chihaya's little moment, I was like, man, the Bloom Into You vibes are real. But I don't know if this is going to be a secret Yuri or not. But I do love the fact that Chihaya's in the lead. She leads Taichi along into the room. It's musty. It feels lived in. It feels like it hasn't been utilized in a while. But it's spacious and open and perfect for what they need to do. And so I love that, like, them just throwing the mats down, the dust piles everywhere. So, like, this is the club room. And so I was begging the Empress, and she finally gave it to us. So it's a storage room, but they can use it. She's like, we shouldn't complain. We got a place to do it. Now we can, it's quiet, perfect for Karuta, which is what they need. And she's like, we'll get 3 more mats. And once we have 5 members, we'll be recognized as a club. One thing that I love is, here's the thing. Taichi's like, oh, well, it could just be the 2 of us, 2 of us in this private, secluded location, just practicing Karuta and getting to know one another. And Chihaya's like, or we could have friendship. And Taichi's like, okay. But that's kind of what I love about Chihaya, is that Taichi is still kind of like, he wants to get closer to Chihaya and wants to foster a relationship. And you can tell Chihaya is not really in this for love, even though, does she recognize the love for Arata? Well, maybe after this lesson from Kana, perhaps. But she's just in this for the friendship. She wants to show Arata that Karuta is meant to be played with friends. She's like, look, this is so much fun. Like, she's doing this to try to convince Arata to come back to Karuta, even though we see Arata at the end with the cards, like, contemplating it. He's going to do it. So it's like, I love that Chihaya is so innocent. And she's like, I just want to have a team and to play and just to show people how much fun Karuta is. She's like, if I can be inspired by it, just think of how other people can be inspired by it as well. She's just so cute and her energy is infectious and I love it, right? And so Taichi, of course, which now that I know it's Miyano Mamoru, you can just hear it so easily once you figure out who the voice actor is. You're like, oh, I can hear it. But yeah, he's like, well, I didn't know. And Taichi still is insecure because he's like, well, I didn't know that that's how you felt with Arata and that you were playing this because of them. And she's like, moving on. So it's just, Taichi gets so caught up in his head that I'm like, my dude, you need to just let loose and help her get this club going. And he's like, your goal is to become the queen, isn't it? And she's like, well, yes. And he's like, are you actually serious about this? Or were you just following what Arata told you? And she's like, well, both. So, but I do think she is serious, right? But she's not, her competitiveness is not the same way that Taichi's is, and it's not the same way that Kana's is. So it can be very different. That's like we talked about in this episode during the reaction. You can have a love for an activity that is different from other people's love, but it's still not love nonetheless. And you can be competitive in different ways. And that's totally valid and totally fine. So anyway, so she's like, well, we'll just carry the mats over and we'll get this started. So meanwhile, we go back to the archery club and we learn about Kana. She's always reading old books. Everybody says she's ahead of her time, born in the wrong era. And she talks about how she really just, she's like, I don't want to run in my hakama. I just wanted to wear the hakama. I just like traditional clothing. I was just in it for the fashion. And that's not a good reason to do Tsurune because Tsurune is a lot of work. So then she sees the Karuta Club and is like, is this maybe geared more towards my interests? So she goes to check it out. And I'm like, Kana is fooling nobody. She's like, I mean, that really hot girl is the leader of it. So why not? Like, we know what you are, Kana. And that's totally valid and fine. I cannot wait to see Chihaya in that kimono with the red leaves. I feel like she's going to be in it by the end of the series. I feel like she has to be because it's too perfect. Her facing Arata in the kimono with the red maple leaves that's indicative of the river that is her card. That was the first card they played together. The symbolism, y'all, I need to see it. I need her to face him in it. I need that. I do, right? I also like that the club room they have has a second floor and a balcony, like party central in this place. But yeah, the old student council room. I wonder if they already have too many members. Well, no, it's actually quite the opposite. I love that the card is flapped towards the window and later on Chihaya like gets towards the window too. Like that was such a good gimmick. And I like that the card kind of prefaces it beforehand. But yeah. Chihaya immediately senses someone and wants them to join. I like the fact that Chihaya has beat Taichi 2 times. Now, granted, I like what this sets up because Taichi, had been playing Karuta, but then he gave it up because he didn't think he was going to be good at it. This is setting up an opportunity for Taichi to grow later. Taichi might beat Chihaya later on, and they can go back and forth. But it's also showing the advantage Chihaya has right now because she's been playing consistently longer. But yeah, I like it. Of course, their juice boxes are opposite colors, like purple and orange, which is fun. And so Taichi notices that Chihaya has kind of limited herself. She's kind of stifled herself because she relies so much on sound that she doesn't get the cards memorized from the start. And it means she has to kind of rev her engines, build up speed before she gets really good, which could put her at a disadvantage. And he also points out that she's been playing against the same people the last couple years. And he makes note, rightfully so, that the more you practice with the same group of people, the more you kind of get used to the style that they do, so that when you face somebody different, it can throw you off. And that connected to speech very much because in the speech world of competitive public speaking, you have different regions and you all kind of geographically face the same people just by nature of proximity over the course of the year. So you get used to like regional style and like accents and different ways that people do certain events and like kind of like little hidden, not taboos, but like hidden unwritten rules like that people do. You get used to all of that. And then when you go to nationals, like we did a couple weeks ago, you see people from different regions that do it in a totally different style, and it can kind of throw you off. So it can kind of make you go like, oh, well, am I doing this wrong? And it's like, no, you're not doing it wrong. It's just done a different way depending on where you do it. So it is important, I think, that they go to do other games with other people and not just themselves, because you're not going to get better if you don't face different competition. You need variety to get better. And Taichi kind of points that out to Chihaya, being like, you can't memorize where the cards are. Chihaya's problem is memory. She's the polar opposite from Arata. Arata has a photographic memory from what we've seen so far. But Chihaya is, of course, polar opposite to that, where she doesn't have a good memory. She relies on sound, not necessarily the memory. But her learning the history behind the cards and her curiosity with that, I think is going to help her in the long run, because if she can visualize it, now she's pouring into the sound that she hears with the visualization of the memory of the meaning. And so Chihaya is eventually going to go Gear 5 and she'll be able to like be the ultimate queen of Karuta, but we're only on episode 6 of season 1. Baby steps. So yeah. But Taichi points out some pretty good parts about why training with different people is important. She's like, well, you still lost to me. And he's like, well, it's only a matter of time before that doesn't happen and I get used to things. So yeah. One thing that's pretty hilarious about when Chihaya is chasing down Kana is that Chihaya did track team. So your chances of outrunning this girl are slim to none. There is a very good chance that she is going to catch up with you and you have no choice. You will be caught. You will be forced to learn about Karuta through her and question on whether you're going to join or not. So Kana's like, well, I was considering joining. And I love that she says, as you know, because she assumes that Chihaya knows all the history behind Karuta, but that is not the case at all. So she says, the 100 poets lived during the Kamakura period, and she talks about she says that they were all compiled one poem from each of the 100 best poets in chronological order from the Emperor Tenji to the retired Emperor Juntoku. And then she talks about how it's all like historically, like it's used to decorate the sliding doors of the mountain villa, and talks about the history behind it and everything. And Chihaya's like, yeah, I didn't really actually consider any of that. She's like, I love the backstory and the history. They were selected as ornamental in nature because they were meant to be used as decoration. His judgment was wonderful. There were 79 male poets and 21 female poets, which honestly, for being of that time, I'm surprised there were as many female poets featured as there were. But so 79 men, 21 female poets. And she has paid particular attention to the poets by the women. So again, we've talked about it. Everybody has like their niche. Like Chihaya's is the sounds, like the first syllable cards. And so Kana's are going to be the poem cards that are written by women are the ones that she'll gravitate towards, which is really cool. And then Taichi supposedly is like the gambler. He's the high risk, high reward. But I love that we're getting everybody's little niches kind of explained. And she's like, you can feel the seasons and modesty in a way that can't be found in modern poetry. It's as fresh as it was 1,000 years ago. And she's like, yes, so you'll play with us, right? And then she asks if they wear traditional garb. And the thing about it is with Kana, I'm like, just because they didn't wear the traditional garb doesn't mean that you can't while you compete. But I like that she wants to push them to also wear it as well because it's more official, right? Only members of the imperial court dabble in poetry. And she's like, the kendo club and the archery club. I wonder if she'd been in the kendo club to wear the hakama, and it didn't work out either. And so when she asks why they don't wear them, I like that Chihaya said they're expensive, which sure, that's a valid reason. And Taichi's is it takes a lot of effort to wear one. I think that it's very apt that Taichi, remember, Taichi right now, he has lots of room to grow as a character, but right now he kind of doesn't like to push himself into like the unknown or push himself into uncomfortable spaces. So he's like, oh, well, it'd be a lot of effort and a risk to wear it, and you wouldn't be able to maximize your efficiency as a Karuta player, so we're not wearing them for that reason. Very on brand for his character. Whereas Chihaya is like, oh, they're just expensive and not practical. So I think that's very telling, which is funny because both their parents are not unwell off. They both are pretty okay and maybe not bougie, but they're both pretty well off. And so she's like, my family's owned a traditional clothing shop for many generations, and I love kimonos, and I want people to understand how beautiful they are, but we can't afford a model for next year's catalog. And it's like, oh, Chihaya has got you hooked up there. And she's like, I might as well stay in the archery club if I can't wear the fancy clothes. So Taichi, of course, I like that Chihaya is like, well, this is interesting. I kind of want to know more about her. Taichi is like, we don't even pay attention to the poems. It's all about the structure. So Taichi immediately like gives up on her. That's probably, I would say for Taichi, that's his biggest weakness right now. It's kind of twofold. There's so much to love about Taichi. And when Taichi's on his game, he's so good. But Taichi's two biggest weaknesses right now are tied to his insecurity and his fear of the unknown. His two biggest weaknesses are that, one, he is a coward and he gives up very easily. If things are not easily attainable or they're going to require a lot of work and there's more risk than reward, he's like, nope, not going to bother with it. And it's like, but his other biggest weakness is that he is very quick to judge. He immediately thinks of a decision and a reason. He's like, nope, we can't do it because of this. No, it's not going to work because of that. No, I don't think it's going to work because he's so hasty in his judgment. And meanwhile, Chihaya is opposite of that, where she's so open to understanding people that I'm excited by the possibility of Taichi growing as a character and shedding some of these insecurities and shedding some of these weaknesses, but they are so apparent right now, which is good because it's a sign of where his character growth can go. Now, of course, everybody in the library notices Chihaya as soon as she comes up, and girl, she doesn't even realize how flirty she looks looking over that book, being like, wow, you really read some hard books there. If Taichi had been there, he would have been red in the face. I'm just saying. And Kana's like, what the fudge are you doing? I like that Kana's all blushy. And I didn't realize how much taller Chihaya is to her, but she really is. She's like, my love of Karuta is fundamentally different from yours. I'm not interested in a sport with no emotion. And Chihaya is like, well, now, come on now. I think that there is emotion in Karuta. You just have to help us find it. So I also liked how the lecture that the teacher was talking about immediately after that scene is kind of tied to the same period that Kana was talking about. Here's the thing. Chihaya is, if anything, persistent. Girl is not going to let you just walk away. She is like a gnat on a hot dog. Girl's going to follow you. And this is when Taichi comes in. He's like, hey, there's no point in pestering someone who doesn't want to join. And she's like, now look, we just had a whole episode where Arata came in and said he was, by the end of the episode, still interested in us and playing Karuta. So how about we give her a chance? That is like Taichi just not giving people a chance. And it does irk me a little bit, him holding her back, because I'm like, Taichi, girl can make her own decisions. I feel like that, to me, is one of the selling points of Arata and Chihaya, is because Arata doesn't try to hold her back. Arata holds himself back, sure, but he doesn't try to hold her back. He lets her go and lets her flourish. Whereas right now, Taichi holds her back. And I feel like, to me, I'm like, Taichi, if you could let her just bloom, then you would be amazed at how good she is, I'm sure. But that's part of Taichi's insecurity and him trying to like look out for her in a weird way. And I'm like, you just gotta let her go, dude. And once you do, then I think it's gonna be for your benefit, right? And yeah, Taichi's like, well, like I said yesterday, she's not cut out for it. And I'm like, you rush to your judgments far too quickly. Like, if you gave her a chance, like Chihaya does, you would find that she actually is a really good player and has a lot of potential. I mean, she's not going to be good right off the bat. She's got to work towards it. But I think Kana, I want to call her Nana, I think that Kana has a lot of potential. Much more potential than Sarune, because we go back to the archery course, the shooting grounds, and she's missed all of her shots. Meaning that it's just not for her. But she's convinced that Karuta is not for her either, and Chihaya has to come in and, reel her back in. So yeah, I really love this yukata shop. I definitely want to go to Japan in the next couple of years, and if I go, I know it's gonna be sweltering hot, but I do want to wear a yukata, like just to try it on and wear it. I want to say that I've done it because they are so beautiful, especially that one that's on display with the red maple leaves. Gorgeous. Now, we talk about the love of Karuta being fundamentally different. And Chihaya is like, I want to learn. She's like, this is my favorite poem. And she says it. And she's like, it's talking about, she's like, I even know what it means. It's about how the river is so beautiful when it's completely red. And I was like, when she said that, I was like, I don't think that's the meaning. But here's the thing. I teach English, and we always have, in my favorite class that I teach, we have a section on poetry that we go through. And it's like a sophomore level class. So we just do reviews of fiction and poetry and drama. But when we get to the poetry, I have found over the course of 10 years of teaching that students typically love fiction. Everybody likes, even if they like nonfiction, they love the short story unit. Everybody loves that one because it's what we primarily read, our fiction or nonfiction. And then students like the drama unit because it's really short and it's a play. And you're like, okay, well, you can translate it to movie adaptations and Broadway and things like that. Poetry is always the most controversial unit because people either love poetry, love it, or they are terrified of it and they want nothing to do with it. And we talk about why in the class, but a big thing about it is with stories, even though there is a lot of wiggle room, as you've seen on this channel, a lot of wiggle room, and as you've seen through content creator reactions, there is a lot of variance and wiggle room for interpretations and what we get out of fiction and nonfiction. But usually, most people will probably agree on the central theme. We may disagree on character interpretations and symbolism and things like that, but usually the plot is, a concrete thing unless it's intentionally abstract, and the theme is pretty discernible. But with poetry, a lot of times with poetry, because it's literally the best of language, essentially, there is authors and poets can intentionally be vague. They can just be describing a mood. They could just be describing a single emotion. And so there is so much left to interpretation. And sometimes poets do it very intentionally that I think a lot of readers get frustrated because they're like, no, I just want you to tell me what the meaning is. And the poet's like, but what do you think it means? And that frustrates readers. So it can be a lot of work to try to navigate it. And so like in Chihaya's case, she thought that this was the meaning of the river. She's like, I read it in the book. She's like, I read it and that's what the poem means. But then Kana says, well, sure, that could be one interpretation. And I'm not here to tell you you're wrong or anything. But she's like, classic poetry becomes fascinating when you know the history behind the poems. She's like, this poem is about passionate love, which is kind of what I thought it was. And she's like, what do you mean love? It's not about the scenery. And she's like, well, that would be the universal interpretation. And girl, Kana like goes to town on this, brings up the poetry unit and says, yes, you can talk about the universal interpretation of the poem and you can look at it on the surface level of what it's saying. But when you start to dig into the history behind the poet, did you know that Nijo no Kasaki was in love with Ariwara no Narihira before she married the emperor? And she's like, it's a very famous story. And Chihaya's like, I've been watching TMZ. Know what's going on? She's like, well, and I love for a second, Kana has this look of judgment like, well, let me educate you. She's like, you see, the poem was displayed on a folding screen in the palace. And some accounts say that Nijo no Kasaki was the one who requested the poem. And Narihira concealed his passion for her in a scenic rendering. So basically, it's like she commissioned this poem and he was able to talk about his yearning through this poem in a way that disguised it as just a pretty poem about a river. Saying, in turn, he wasn't able to forget about her. So here's this poem discussing about his passion and love. Impassionate is a decorative word for the gods that imply a great force. So like the force of his yearning, the force of his love. Is it talking about his passion? Is it talking about him committing suicide? Is it talking about just an autumn scene? A lot is left to interpretation. But Kana believes the crimson leaves represent a love that never faded. So, I mean, if you are shipping Arata and Chihaya, this is a pretty strong piece of evidence towards that, because it's like a love that never fades, like the love for Karuta, the love they have between each other, despite the distance that the river is created between them. I mean, it just feels, and the fact of the matter, if you look at it this way, if Chihaya ends up with Taichi, and Taichi's like the emperor in this scene, then Arata's on the other side of the wall, but they still have the poem in between them. I mean. And that could be foreshadowing too. It could be foreshadowing that Chihaya does end up with Taichi, but there's a part of her that always will be with Arata and always will long for him or love him. We don't know. This show is just giving us all of the fodder to interpret it however we want to, and I love it. But I love when Kana says, when you look at it that way, the card with the black letters becomes a deep red. I just love, and Chihaya's like, there's all this meaning I didn't even know existed. And of course, because Chihaya is a sponge and her energy is infectious, she grabs the first notebook she sees and she's like, tell me more. Like, I'm ready to go. She's like Junie B. Jones, ready to write this all down. And of course, Kana, who has always had people like kind of dismiss her and wave her off, this is the first time somebody's actually wanted to listen to her. And I love it. And she just goes into detail about these poems and starts to express their history, like they're part of a collection of 10,000 leaves. And then she talks about all the poets being compiled and starts saying the poetry. And I love the description of the sleeves wet with dew, like that they've been working in the shack and their sleeves are still wet from the morning dew, and how it's interpreted by the emperor about the importance of farmers. Like, I love it. I think it's amazing. And Chihaya's all about it. It's so good. And she just goes poem by poem with her. Now, what was kind of fun is that an episode of Apothecary Diaries that I watched last week actually talked about mugwort and moxibustion. And I was like, we literally just talked about this in an episode of the Apothecary Diaries this last week. That is wild, y'all. The stars are aligning in the craziest of ways. But I kind of love it. But yeah, she's like, I never knew that there was all of this meaning, the rich and colorful world behind each card. And I kind of like that because Chihaya is not good at memorizing, but she does have a very active, creative mind. So if she can see each card has this beautiful, colorful history, kind of like all the different patterns on the silks for the yukata and the fabrics. Like, I love what Kana represents, talking about the history woven in the fabric of Karuta, the history woven in the fabric of the kimonos that her family sells. Like, it just, her character is so wonderful because it connects all of that together. And we get all of that in this one opening episode where we meet her. We get her backstory, we get her character symbolism, all of it at once. And I'm like, yes. I'm like, that's so good. Good job, show. And just, I'm like, Chihaya, I didn't know. And it's so fascinating. And see, if Taichi had held her back, she would never have known all of this. So yeah. I also like Kana with her hair down. She's super pretty. So yeah, and she has like, I like that she has the stacks of all the books there by her bed. So we go back to the Karuta practice, and Chihaya's still winning, but she's inspired now. And of course, Taichi's like, did you run drills? And she's like, no, I did the opposite of what you told me. Sorry. I love that she's like, no, I just did not do what you told me to. And now I know. So yeah, and then of course, that's when she goes, I like that she doesn't run and jump at the window this time. She walks very mindful and demurely and is able to like bring Kana in. Also, I'm sorry, I definitely am a shipper of Arata and Chihaya, and I am a multi-shipper in the fact that I do like Chihaya with Taichi. Maybe not right now as much as Arata and Chihaya, but this is close. This is close. But when I tell you the body difference between Chihaya being tall and lanky and Kana being kind of like curvy and shorter, like the height difference and the body type difference, I kind of ship it too. So, I mean, I'm sure Kana ships it because Kana seems totally fine with this. And she's like, I need you to help model for my parents' catalog, and I want us to wear hakama whenever we compete. And she's like, well, how are we going to get those? And she's like, we'll rent them. And Taichi's like, now wait a minute. And she's like, oh my gosh, why were you trying so hard to recruit me? And she's like, because. And Taichi's like, well, we can practice with more people and better this way and learn more things. But then she's like, I want people to love Karuta, and I want Arata to see how much fun it is. I also love that Kana's like, okay, if we're going to be an official club, we need to clean this shit up. We need to get this room looking like orderly, get it dusted. Taichi is basically, you know, the meme where it's like 20 different beauty products and it's like the 31-in-1. Taichi is the 31-in-1 body wash, shampoo, conditioner, like soap all together. Kana has a full-blown 25-item beauty regimen. She's like, we're going to do this properly, y'all. So I love that. You need someone in your group that is social chair that will get things orderly, and girl looks like she can do it. And I love that they clean everything. She's like, I want to play Karuta with Arata again. And it's fun to show him that it's fun when you're with friends. I love that deep down, I don't know if Chihaya realizes that her wanting to play Karuta with Arata is tied to her liking him or what it is, but I don't know. I don't know if she's realized that. Chihaya is not very, she doesn't notice love and notice affection as much as some people would. That shot, though, of Arata with his like giant man hands on the Karuta cards. This show is like the perfect love triangle. I root for both of them. I want Arata with Chihaya. I also want Taichi with Chihaya. I'm fine with Arata and Taichi together. So it's just basically Chihaya is going to form a harem. Chihaya is going to get a harem of people trying to date her, and it's just going to be a free-for-all. So Kana has now joined the ranks as well. But Chihayafuru is a poem about deep red love. Now the question is it a love of Karuta? Is it a love of something else or someone else? Why, we're only in episode 6. We still got a ways to go. But anyway, my voice is starting to come back. You can tell it's still a little bit hoarse. I think it's just for me coughing, but my cough has gotten a lot better since yesterday. So I'm very hopeful that it will continue to get stronger as the weeks go. So anyway, I loved this episode. This episode was so much fun. I love that Kana has joined the ranks. I love what she represents. I'm excited to see what other members we get in this club and where it goes to. But in any case, I'm excited to hear your comments down below, and I hope you enjoyed this reaction and discussion. So with that being said, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with more of Chihayafuru. Bye!